My name is Richard. I'm 68 years old, and what happened this Sunday changed my life forever. Listen closely, because I need to tell you this story. My own son, my only blood, pushed me and screamed at me, "You smelly old man," in front of the whole neighborhood. But let me start from the beginning, because you have to understand how we got to this point. Sunday, April 15th, 11 inches the morning. I'm standing in front of my son David's building in an upscale neighborhood, holding a bag of tamales I spent all night preparing for my granddaughter, Sarah. She loves them. She always tells me, "Grandpa, your tamales are the best in the world," with that smile that melts my heart. I also have a princess coloring book under my arm that I bought her at the local flea market. Nothing expensive, but given with love, like everything I give her. And then I see something that fills me with pride. There, shining in the morning sun, is a silver Audi Q5. New, gleaming, perfect. I recognized that car immediately because David talked about it for years. "Someday, Dad, I'm going to have one just like it," he used to say. "It's my dream car." My heart swells with happiness. My son made it. My boy got ahead with his job at the dealership. With his own hard work, I get closer to see it better. It's beautiful, really. I lightly touch the hood with my fingertips, feeling the cold, perfect metal. I'm smiling, imagining David driving this beauty, taking Sarah to school, feeling proud. At that moment, the building door flies open. "You smelly old man, don't touch my car." David's voice cuts through me like a knife. He runs towards me and shoves me hard in the chest. The force makes me stagger backward. I lose my balance, and the bag of tamales falls from my hands. Everything scatters on the pavement. The tamales I made with so much love, getting up at 5 in the morning to make the perfect dough, are now lying there like garbage. I just stand there, not understanding what's happening. This is not my David, the boy I raised, the one I held when he cried as a child, the one I comforted after his first heartbreak. This man screaming at me with so much anger, so much contempt. He can't be my son. Karen appears behind him with her phone in her hand, recording everything. She laughs while filming and says, "Oh my God, look who's here." The poor old man who always comes to beg for food. Beg for food. Those words hurt more than the push. I come to bring them food, to give them my love. And she says I've come to beg. The neighbors start peeking out their windows. Some come out of their apartments to see what's happening. I see familiar faces, people who have greeted me politely for years when I'd visit. David keeps screaming, louder and louder, as if he wants the whole building to hear him. "Dad, how many times do I have to tell you? You are not welcome here. Look at how you're dressed, it's embarrassing. And now you want to touch my new car with your dirty hands." My car. The one I bought with my money, with my effort. You never gave me anything. Those last words hit me like fists. You never gave me anything. I repeat them in my mind, trying to process them. How can he say that? How can my own son, in front of all these people, say I never gave him anything? I look at my clothes. Yes, they are old. My pants are worn. My shirt has a few patches I sewed myself. My shoes are clean but scuffed. I don't have money for new clothes every month. I live on a modest pension in my small apartment in a simple working-class neighborhood. But I always come here clean. I always shower and shave before coming to see them. "Grandpa?" Sarah yells, appearing in the building entrance. My heart leaps when I see her. She runs toward me with her arms open, but Karen grabs her by the arm before she can reach me. "No, don't go near him. He smells bad, and he's old and sick." Sarah looks at me with confused eyes, trying to understand why she can't hug her grandfather. I see tears forming in her little eyes. I want to tell her it's not true, that I'm not sick, that I'm just old, but I love her more than my own life. But the words won't come out. The neighbors are watching us, some with curiosity, others with pity. Some are even recording with their phones. Mrs. Linda from the second floor is at her window, shaking her head. Mr. Miller from the first floor looks at me with compassion and then glares at David with disapproval. I feel the humiliation burning my cheeks. David continues his show. "Everything I have, I got on my own. This apartment, this car, everything. Without your help. You useless old man." I bend down slowly and start picking up the tamales from the ground. My hands are shaking. Some are completely crushed. Others barely touch the pavement. I put them back in the bag, one by one. The coloring book is there too, with a bent corner. I dust it off and put it away. During this whole time, I don't say a single word. I can't. It's like my throat is closed. I look at David one last time. His face is red with anger. His fists are clenched. Karen is still recording, smiling as if this is the most entertaining thing in the world. Sarah is crying now, clinging to her mother's leg. I turn around and start walking toward the bus stop. Every step hurts. Not my body, but my soul. I hear David's voice yelling at my back. And don't come back. I paid for this house. This car is mine. You never did anything for me. The bus arrives just as I reach the stop. I get on slowly. I pay my fare, and I sit by the window. As we pull away from the neighborhood, I watch the building get smaller. My vision gets a little blurry. It must be the dust, I tell myself. On the ride back to my neighborhood, I look out the window at the streets of this city I love. We pass downtown, through the main park, by places I've known since I was a child. I think about my wife Mary, who died 5 years ago. It's a good thing she didn't see this. It would have broken her heart to see her son behave this way. Is it true I never gave David anything? Is it possible for a father to work his whole life for his son, and in the end the son doesn't value it? My head aches from thinking so much. David's words echo in my mind like bells. You never gave me anything. When I get to my apartment, I sit in my old chair by the window. The place is silent. The only sound is the ticking of the clock Mary gave me for our 20th anniversary. I look at the bag of crushed tamales, and I think, maybe my son is right. Maybe I am just a smelly old man who bothers people. But there is something he can't take from me. Something David doesn't know. There are documents in my safe that tell a very different story. And maybe it's time for my son to know the whole truth about who really paid for that life he's so proud of. At home, I open the safe I have hidden behind a portrait of my late wife, Mary. My hands tremble as I take out the documents, one by one. Receipts, vouchers, letters from Edward, bank contracts. Every paper tells a story that David never knew, never even imagined. I sit at my kitchen table, the same one where Mary and I planned the future when David was little. I spread out all the papers and I start to remember. Tell me, how can a son say his father never gave him anything when you gave your entire life for him? Here is the first receipt, $1,993. David was 15 and dreamed of studying business administration at the big private university, an expensive school for kids from rich families. But my boy was smart. He had good grades. He deserved the best. My salary as an accountant at the Mendoza Construction Company barely covered our bills. Mary worked as a seamstress at home, but that wasn't much money either. So I started working 2 jobs. In the mornings I was at the construction company, but in the afternoons, after coming home, eating something quick, and kissing Mary, I would go to Mr. Roberts' warehouse to do his accounting. From 6 in the evening until 11 at night, every day, even Saturdays. I saved Sundays for the family, to go to church with Mary and David, to be a father. Do you know what it feels like to work 14 hours a day for 5 years? To get home when your wife is already asleep? To get up before she wakes? To see your son only on Sundays? But every dollar I saved was another brick in David's future. Mary would tell me, "Richard, you're going to get sick. David can go to a public university. They're good too." But I would answer her, "No, my love. Our son is going to have opportunities we never had. Here is the tuition receipt for the first semester, $3,200. It was a fortune back then. I paid it with wrinkled bills, saved from 5 years of working like a dog. David never asked where the money came from. He just said, 'Thanks, Dad,' and went off with his friends to celebrate. But let's continue the story, because this is just the beginning. Here I have the letter from Edward, dated March 20th, 2005. My friend Edward Morales, who I've known since high school, more than 50 years. I asked him a favor I will never forget. David was marrying Karen, and he needed money for the wedding, for the dress, for the hall, for that whole show that women want. "Richard," David said to me one day, "Dad, I need $10,000 for the wedding. I know it's a lot of money, but Karen has everything planned, and $10,000. I was earning $800 a month at the time, more than a year's salary, without eating, without paying rent, without anything. But I had one thing of value, the engagement ring I gave Mary 30 years earlier. A ring with a small but real diamond, one I bought when I was young and foolish, and believed love was shown with expensive jewelry. I went to the pawn shop on the main street. The man who helped me said, "It's a nice piece, sir. I can give you $11,000 for it." 11,000, more than David needed. But I couldn't give him the money directly. He would have wondered where I got it. His father, the accountant, who always complained that money was tight, suddenly had $11,000 saved up. He wouldn't have believed me. So I talked to Edward. "My friend," I said, "I need you to do me a huge favor. I want you to give this money to David, but as if it were from you. Tell him you had a good business deal, that you want to support your godson." Edward looked at me with those eyes that have known me since we were boys. "Richard, brother, are you sure? That's a lot of money." "I'm sure. Just don't ever tell him it was from me." David was overjoyed when Edward arrived with the envelope full of cash. "Uncle Edward, really? All this for me?" Edward played his part perfectly. "That's right, kid. I got lucky on some deals, and I want you to have the wedding you deserve." My son hugged Edward with so much joy, so much gratitude. He said thank you to me politely, like when you pass the salt at the table. Mary knew the truth, of course. That night, when we were in bed, she took my hand. "You sold my ring?" she said. It wasn't a question. "I'm sorry, my love," I answered. "It was the only valuable thing I had." She squeezed my hand tighter. "Don't be sorry. You did the right thing. But David should know." "No," I told her. "Let him feel proud. Let him feel he can achieve things on his own." Now, so many years later, with these papers in my hands, I wonder if I made a mistake. Maybe Mary was right. Maybe David should have known. The wedding was beautiful. Karen looked like a princess. David was so handsome in his suit. I danced with Mary that night, in the ballroom that cost so much but was worth every penny. "See how happy our son is," she told me. "Yes," I answered. "It was worth every sacrifice." But let's continue, because the story doesn't end there. Here is the receipt for the apartment in the upscale neighborhood. A $50,000 down payment, the year 2010. By then, David already had his job at the dealership. He was married. He already had my granddaughter, Sarah. One day he called me. "Dad, I found the perfect apartment, in a great neighborhood, close to Karen's job. But I need $50,000 for the down payment." $50,000. More than 2 years of my full salary. I was still working at the construction company, and in the afternoons at Mr. Roberts' warehouse, who by then trusted me so much that I practically ran his whole business. I had saved some money, but not that much. Then, I remembered I had shares in the construction company. Mr. Mendoza, my boss, had given shares to all the longtime employees as a Christmas bonus. I had kept them for years without thinking much about them. I sold them all. $50,000. Exactly, as if it were a sign from destiny. But again, I couldn't give it directly to David. How would I explain having that much money? I called Edward again. "My friend, I need your help again." Edward didn't even ask questions this time. He just said, "Tell me how much and when." David was euphoric when Edward gave him the money. "Uncle, you're incredible. You always show up when I need you most." Edward hugged him and looked at me over my son's shoulder. I saw sadness in his eyes, as if he understood that something wasn't right about all this. The apartment was beautiful. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a balcony with a view of the modern buildings. The first time they invited me, I stood in the living room, looking at everything my money had bought for my son. Sarah ran through the rooms, happy in her new home. David showed me everything with pride. "Look, Dad, this will be Sarah's room. Here's the kitchen Karen picked out. We got it all on our own, with our own hard work." "On our own? With their hard work?" I just nodded and smiled, swallowing the words that wanted to come out of my mouth. The years passed. Mary got sick. Cancer took her from me slowly. During her illness, David came to visit us often. He acted like the good son I had raised. But after the funeral, the visits became less frequent. Karen always had an excuse. Sarah had homework. David was too busy at work. They had their own lives. I understood. Young people deserve their own space. I was happy with the Sunday visits, with Sarah's hugs, with preparing tamales for them. Until the car. 3 months ago, David told me about his dream. A silver Audi Q5. "Dad, It's the perfect car for my family. I almost have the money saved, but I'm short about $15,000. I knew he didn't have that much saved. His salary was good, but not that good. He had expenses, the mortgage, Sarah's private school tuition. Once more, I called Edward. My friend, I think this is the last time I'll ask you for this. Edward sighed over the phone. Richard, brother, don't you think it's time for David to know the truth? No, I answered. Let him feel successful. Later, when I'm gone, maybe then you can tell him. But $15,000 wasn't all he needed for the Audi. David needed a bank loan, and with his salary and his current debts, he didn't qualify. I went to the bank on the main avenue to speak with the manager, Carlos. Mr. Castillo, he said after reviewing David's papers, your son has a good job, but he doesn't have the profile for this loan. Unless, would you be willing to co-sign? Co-sign. That meant, if David didn't pay, I would have to. With my $800 a month pension, it would be impossible. But the manager assured me David had a good credit history, that there wouldn't be any problems. I signed the papers without hesitation. Of course, David never knew I was his co-signer. The bank told him his application was approved because of his good history. Period. And just like that, my son got his silver Audi Q5, the car of his dreams. When he told me he had bought it, I pretended to be surprised. Really, son? That's great. You must have done well at the dealership this year. He swelled with pride. Yeah, Dad. Finally I can give my family everything they deserve. Now I'm here, with all these papers spread out on my table, and David's words echoing in my head. You never gave me anything. Every document in front of me is proof of the opposite. Every receipt, every voucher, every signature is a piece of my life that I gave for him. Was I wrong to keep it a secret? Was I wrong to want him to feel self-sufficient? Mary always told me that one day David should know the truth, that gratitude is also learned. But I thought it was better this way, that it was better for my son to live with the confidence that he could achieve everything himself. Now I see my mistake. David grew up believing he was completely independent, that he didn't owe anyone anything. And when his old father shows up in his life, he sees him as a nuisance, as someone who contributes nothing. But I can't change the past. What I can change is the future. If David believes he achieved everything alone, if he is so sure that I never gave him anything, then maybe it's time for him to experience what it truly means to achieve everything alone. I put the documents back in the safe. Tomorrow, I'm going to start arranging some things. My son wants complete independence. He wants to prove he doesn't need his smelly old man for anything. Well then, I'm going to give him exactly what he's asking for. Monday, April 16th. I wake up before dawn, like I always have my whole life. But this morning is different. This morning I have a clear purpose, a mission to accomplish. I get out of bed slowly. My bones crackle a bit. Age, you know. But my mind is clearer than ever. I go to the bathroom and shave carefully, using the shaving brush Mary gave me for our 20th anniversary. Every pass of the razor is deliberate, precise. I comb my gray hair back, with gel, like I did when I was young and handsome. In the mirror, I see a 8-year-old man. Yes, but I also see determination. I don't see the smelly old man my son described yesterday. I see Richard, retired accountant, father, grandfather, and above all, a man with dignity. I open my closet and take out my best suit. The navy blue one I bought 15 years ago for David's wedding. I sent it to the dry cleaner last week, so it's immaculate. I put it on with a crisp white shirt. I ironed it myself last night, and my silk wine-colored tie that I only wear on special occasions. My leather shoes are shined to a gloss. If I'm going to do this, I'll do it like the gentleman my mother taught me to be. I take out my brown leather briefcase, the same one I used when I worked at the construction company. Inside, I place all the documents I reviewed last night, the proofs of the transfers through Edward, the bank receipts, the sold shares, everything. Each paper is proof of the life I gave for my son, but they are also the tools I need for what I'm going to do today. Before leaving, I stand in front of the portrait of Mary that she hung in the living room 30 years ago. Mary, I say softly, give me strength to do the right thing. It's not revenge I'm looking for. It's justice. I make the sign of the cross and leave my apartment. The plan I have is simple but effective. If David is so convinced that he achieved everything without my help, if he is so sure that I never gave him anything, then I'm going to give him the chance to prove it. I am going to withdraw my support, all my help, and we'll see how independent my son really is. First stop, the bank on the main avenue. I take the subway from my neighborhood. It takes time, but it gives me a chance to mentally rehearse what I'm going to say. I have to be firm, but polite, determined, but not aggressive. I arrive at the bank at 9 o'clock, right when they open. I tell the receptionist I have an appointment with the manager, Carlos. I called yesterday afternoon to schedule it. He makes me wait 20 minutes in those leather chairs they have in the VIP area, but I don't mind. I read the newspaper. I drink the coffee they offer me. I act like the valuable client I am. After all, I've had my savings here for over 20 years. Mr. Castillo, Carlos says, when he finally sees me. He's a man in his 40 seconds. Expensive suit, Italian tie. That professional smile bankers use. How can I help you today? I want to remove my name as co-signer for my son David Castillo's auto loan. I say it without beating around the bush, taking the documents from my briefcase. The smile fades from his face. He checks the papers on his computer. He frowns. Mr. Castillo, I understand your situation, but are you completely sure? Your son will lose the vehicle. Without your name, the loan cannot continue. We would have to demand immediate payment of the total balance, which is, he checks the screen, $70,000. Completely sure, I answer, keeping my voice calm. My son explained to me very clearly yesterday that he bought that car with his money, with his effort. I just want to help him be correct. Carlos studies me with curiosity. Surely in his years as a banker he has seen many family fights, many family dramas that end up on his desk. May I ask if there was some misunderstanding between you? There was no misunderstanding, I reply, folding my hands on my lap. My son was very clear in his words. He believes he never received any help from me, that he achieved everything alone. I am here to respect that truth. The manager sighs. He prints several documents. I need you to sign here, here, and here, he says, pointing to the lines marked with yellow X's. This will take effect immediately. Your son will receive a certified notification within the next 48 hours. I sign each document with a steady hand. My signature, which Mary always said was elegant, looks clear and decisive on each line. Anything else you need? Carlos asks. Yes, I say, putting my copy of the documents in the briefcase. When my son comes to talk to you, because I know he will, please remind him that according to his own words, he bought that car with his money and his effort. Just that. Carlos nods. But I see in his eyes that he's thinking, I'm a cruel old man. It doesn't matter. He wasn't there yesterday when his own son pushed him and humiliated him in front of the whole neighborhood. Second stop, the law office of Mr. Rafael Hernandez in the downtown legal district. Mr. Hernandez has been a lawyer for 30 years, a serious, honest man who has known my family since we made our wills, after David was born. I take a taxi from the bank. Today is not a day to save money on buses. Richard, Mr. Hernandez says when I enter his office. What a pleasure to see you. How have you been? It's been a long time. Well, Rafael, I'm here to make some changes to my will. His expression immediately turns serious. He puts on his glasses and pulls my file from a cabinet. Of course, of course. Tell me what changes you want to make. I want to revoke David as my sole heir, I tell him directly. All my assets, my life savings, and my apartment, I want to leave it to the Silver Embrace Foundation. Mr. Hernandez is quiet for a long moment. Then he looks at me over his glasses. Richard, that is a very serious decision. The Silver Embrace Foundation is an excellent organization. They help many vulnerable seniors, but are you completely sure? David is your only son. It is the most serious decision of my life, I answer, leaning forward in the chair. And yes, I am completely sure. My son made it very clear to me yesterday that he never received anything from me, that he achieved everything alone. There is no reason for him to receive anything now. Mr. Hernandez sighs like the banker, but starts typing on his computer. I need you to dictate exactly how you want it worded. I dictate the words I've been thinking since last night. I leave all my assets to the Silver Embrace Foundation so they may continue their work of supporting abandoned or vulnerable seniors. To my son, David Castillo, I leave only my blessings and the certainty that he can achieve everything in life with his own effort, as he himself has shown me. Richard. Mr. Hernandez stopped typing. He looks at me with concern. Don't you think you're being too harsh? Maybe David said things he didn't mean. Maybe he was angry about something, and David said exactly what he meant, I interrupt him. And he said it in front of his wife, his daughter, the neighbors. These weren't words spoken in the heat of the moment, Raphael. They were words that came from the bottom of his heart. Mr. Hernandez finishes typing the new will. He prints it. He reads it to me in full to make sure it's as I want. Then he calls his 2 secretaries to act as witnesses. I sign all the necessary pages. They sign too. Mr. Hernandez puts his official seal on it. It's done, he says, putting the original in his safe and handing me a copy. Do you want me to send a copy to David? No, I answer, folding my copy and putting it in the briefcase. He will find out when the time is right. Third stop, Premium Motors in the luxury district. This is the craziest part of my plan, the one that even I thought was too much. But after yesterday, after seeing the proud look on David's face when he yelled that the car was his, that he had paid for it, I decided I had to do it. The dealership is elegant, with marble floors and gleaming cars under halogen lights. It smells like new leather and money. The salesman who approaches me is a young man in his 30s. Fitted suit, gelled hair, that trained smile of a luxury car salesman. Good morning, sir. How can I help you? I want to buy a silver Audi Q5, I say, as if I were buying bread at the market. The young man, his name tag says, Robert, sales executive, looks me up and down. He sees my good suit, my polished shoes, my leather briefcase, but he also sees my age, my wrinkles, my worker's hands. He's calculating if I can pay, or if I'm just wasting his time. Of course, sir. We have several models available. Are you thinking of financing or paying in cash? In cash, I say. And I see his eyes light up. He takes me to the exact model I want. Silver Audi Q5, 2-turbo engine, black leather interior, alloy wheels, all the extras. Exactly the same as the one David has. Well, the one David had until this morning. This model is priced at $89,000, Robert tells me, waiting to see my reaction. I know. I'll take it. Robert blinks several times. Sir, are you sure? It's a lot of money, and... Young man, I say firmly but not rudely, I am 68 years old. I have worked every day of my life since I was 14. I know perfectly well how much money I have and how much the things I want cost. I take the bank statement from my briefcase showing my life savings. It's just enough. I want this exact car. When can it be ready? Robert, now completely convinced that I am a serious customer, calls his supervisor. Between the two of them, they explain they can have it ready tomorrow if I pay today. Perfect. While we process the paperwork, Robert asks me curiously, Is the car for you, Mr. Castillo? No, I answer, signing the purchase contract. It's a very special gift, for a foundation that helps people who really need it. The rest of the day I spend arranging the final details. I go to the Silver Embrace Foundation to talk to the director. Patricia. She's a woman in her 52nds, a social worker. She dedicates her life to helping abandoned seniors. I explain my situation. Not all of it, just what's necessary, and my desire to donate the Audi to be used as transport for the Foundation's residents. Mr. Castillo, she says with tears in her eyes, this is incredible. With this vehicle, we can take our residents to medical appointments, to visit family, on outings. It's a gift from heaven. I only ask for one thing, I tell her, that you put a decal on the car that says, Donated with love, by Richard. Nothing more. Back home in the evening, I sit at my kitchen table to write the hardest letter of my life. A letter to David. I weigh every word as if it were gold. I don't want to sound bitter. I don't want to sound vindictive. I want to sound like what I am. A father who loves his son but who can no longer stand the disrespect and ingratitude. I write, cross out, rewrite. The letter has to be perfect. It has to explain everything without sounding like a victim. It has to be firm but loving. After 2 hours and 5 drafts, I finally have the exact words I want to say to my son. I address the envelope with my best handwriting. For David Castillo, my beloved son. I leave it on the kitchen table. where he will find it when he comes looking for me. Because I know he will come. When he receives the letter from the bank, when he realizes what is happening, he will come. But by then I won't be here. Tomorrow I am moving into the residence at the Silver Embrace Foundation. I've already spoken with Patricia. I've arranged everything. A simple but clean room, home-cooked meals, company of other seniors who know what loneliness is. Tonight, my last night in the apartment where I lived with Mary, where we raised David, where I was happy for so many years. I sit in my chair by the window, and I think about everything that happened. I don't regret anything I did for my son. I only regret not knowing how to teach him gratitude along with everything else. Tomorrow, a new life begins for both of us. For David, the completely independent life he wanted so much. For me, a life with dignity, surrounded by people who appreciate the company of an old man who still has a lot of love to give. Friday, April 20th. It's 3 inches the afternoon, and David is at his desk at the dealership when the certified mail arrives. The courier asks for his ID, a signature of receipt, all very formal. My son signs without paying much attention, thinking it's some routine work document or maybe bank promotions. He opens the white envelope with the bank's logo and reads the first line. Then he reads it again, and again. His face turns pale. His hands start to tremble slightly. Dear Mr. Castillo, we are informing you that the cosigner for your auto loan, Mr. Richard Castillo, has been withdrawn. Richard Castillo, my full name. His father? His father was the cosigner? How is that possible? He never signed anything with his father present. He never asked him to co-sign. The bank told him he had qualified on his own merits. He keeps reading. Due to the absence of a co-signer, we require immediate payment of the amount of $70,000, or the presentation of a new co-signer with verifiable income of at least $8,500 per month. Maximum deadline, DES business days. $70,000. Immediate. 10 days. David feels as if the floor is moving beneath his feet. He gets up from his desk, walks to the office bathroom, locks himself in. He looks in the mirror. His reflection stares back at him, a confused, scared man. It can't be, he says out loud. Dad I never asked him to. He pulls out his cell phone and dials my number. It rings once, twice, 3 times. Voicemail. Dad, it's David. I received a really weird letter from the bank. Call me, please. I need to talk to you urgently. He waits 10 minutes. Calls again. Voicemail again. Dad, please answer. It's important. There's a misunderstanding with the bank about my car. A third call. A fourth. Nothing. His father's phone is off. Or I simply don't feel like answering him. Because I am sitting in my new room at the Silver Embrace residence, watching his name appear on my cell phone screen over and over, and deciding that it's not time yet, that he should let reality sink in first. David leaves the bathroom and goes straight to his car. The beautiful silver Audi Q5 parked in his reserved spot at the dealership. He looks at it as if seeing it for the first time. His father paid for this? His father, who lives in that humble little apartment, who comes dressed in old clothes, was the co-signer for this $89,000 car. He drives straight to the bank. In traffic, he calls again. And again. My phone keeps ringing, and I keep not answering. At the bank, he asks to speak with the manager, Carlos. He has to wait 40 minutes because he doesn't have an appointment. But they finally see him. Mr. Castillo. Carlos says with that expression bankers use when they know they're about to give bad news. Your father came in last Monday to voluntarily withdraw as cosigner. What cosigner? David asks. Although he already knows the answer, I never knew my father was my cosigner. Carlos checks the papers on his computer. Sir, your loan was approved solely because of your father's backing. Without that, you did not qualify for this amount with your current income. Furthermore, he consults more documents. The initial $15,000 down payment also came from your father, through an intermediary named Edward Morales. David's world tilts. Edward Morales. Uncle Edward, who always showed up with money at the perfect moments. The one who paid for his wedding. The one who gave the down payment for the apartment. The one who 3 months ago gave him exactly what he needed to complete the car payment. Edward Morales is a friend of his father's who was acting as an intermediary. All the money came from his father's account. David is speechless. In his mind, pieces of a puzzle he never knew existed start to connect. His expensive university that his father, a simple accountant, had supposedly paid for with his salary. His elegant wedding that Uncle Edward had financed. His apartment that he never understood how he'd been able to afford. Everything, absolutely everything, had been his father. "Can I get a new cosigner?" he asks in a weak voice. Carlos looks at him with some compassion. "You need someone with an income of at least $8,500 a month and no significant debts. Do you have a family member or friend in that situation?" David thinks. His salary is $4,000 a month. Karen doesn't work. His friends earn about the same as him, some less. His boss at the dealership makes good money but would never get involved in something like this. His only close family was his father, who had now abandoned him. Did my father say why he withdrew his name? Carlos hesitates a moment. He said something interesting. He asked me to tell you that, according to his own words, you had bought the car with your money and your effort, that he just wanted to help you be correct. Those words hit David like a slap. His own words screamed last Sunday in front of the whole building. "This car is mine, the one I bought with my money, with my effort. You never gave me anything." He leaves the bank like a zombie. In the parking lot, he sits in his Audi, and for the first time, he truly understands what happened. His father heard him say those terrible words and decided to give him exactly what he asked for. The chance to prove he really could have it all without help. The following days are a nightmare. David calls all his contacts looking for a cosigner. He talks to coworkers, high school friends, distant cousins. No one can or wants to commit to $70,000. Karen panics when he explains the situation. "What do you mean your father co-signed? What do you mean Uncle Edward was just your father? You lied to me all these years." She screams, throwing cushions across the living room. "You said we were independent. You said your father was a useless old man who never helped us." "I didn't know," David tries to explain. "He never told me," I thought. "You thought wrong." Karen is hysterical. "And what are we going to do now? Without a car, how will I take Sarah to school? How will I go to the supermarket? We're going to look poor." David keeps calling me. Once an hour, every day. My phone vibrates constantly, but I have decided it's not time yet. That first, he has to fully understand what it means to be truly alone. The following Tuesday, he receives the second notice from the bank. 6 business days left. Wednesday, 5. His calls become more desperate. He leaves long messages on my voicemail. "Dad, please, I need to talk to you. I know I made a mistake on Sunday. I was angry. I said things I didn't feel. Please answer." But it's too late for that. The words already left his mouth. They were already shouted in front of the neighbors. They were already recorded on Karen's phone. And above all, they already reached my ears and stuck in my heart like daggers. Friday, May 2nd, the last day of the deadline. David hasn't found a cosigner. He has exhausted all his contacts. He has begged. He has offered extra payments, additional guarantees. No one wants to risk that much money for him. At 5 in the afternoon, he receives the call from the bank. "Mr. Castillo, tomorrow, Saturday, at 10 in the morning, a tow truck will come for your vehicle. Please have the documents ready and a full tank of gas as indicated in the contract." That night, David doesn't sleep. He stays awake looking out the window at the parking lot, where his Audi Q5 shines under the streetlights. His car. His beautiful car that was never really his. Saturday at 10 o'clock sharp, the tow truck from the bank arrives. David is standing there as the neighbors come out to watch the show. The same neighbor from the second floor who recorded when he pushed me is there now. But his expression is different. There's no mockery or fun anymore. Just pity. "What a shame, David," Mrs. Linda says as he hands the documents to the tow truck driver. "Your father was a good man. He always greeted us with respect when he came to visit you." Was. She talks about me in the past tense, as if I had died. And in a way, the father David knew did die that Sunday when he pushed me, and told me I had never given him anything. Karen is locked in the apartment. She doesn't want to come out so no one sees her. Sarah watches from the window, not understanding why they are taking her daddy's car. David signs the last papers with a trembling hand and watches them load his Audi Q5 onto the tow truck's platform. When the truck disappears down the avenue, David just stands there in the parking lot. The empty space where his car was seems like a black hole. The neighbors disperse, muttering among themselves, some shaking their heads in disapproval. They all know what happened. They all saw the videos. They all know David humiliated his father, and now he is paying the consequences. Sunday, May 6th. David can't take it anymore. He has gone a full week without talking to me, without finding a cosigner, watching his perfect life fall apart. He decides to go look for me at my apartment. Maybe if he sees me face to face, if he begs for forgiveness on his knees, we can fix this. He takes the subway. He doesn't have a car anymore. The trip that used to take him 20 minutes now takes an hour and a half. On the train, he thinks about what he's going to say, how he's going to explain that he was confused, that he didn't mean those horrible things. He arrives at my building, climbs the stairs to the 3rd floor. The elevator has been broken for months, and he knocks on my door. No one answers. He knocks again, harder, nothing. Mrs. Connolly, my neighbor across the hall, opens her door. "Are you looking for your father, David?" "Yes, Mrs. Connolly. Is he inside?" The woman looks at me with a mixture of sadness and reproach. "Your dad moved out 3 days ago, son. He went to live in a retirement home. He said he had donated all his money to a charity." David feels his legs go weak. "He moved? Where? Why?" "I don't know where. But he left the key with me in case you came looking for anything. He said you would probably come." Mrs. Connolly gives him the key, and David enters my apartment. It's empty. My furniture is still there, but there are no clothes in the closets, no food in the refrigerator, no books on the shelves. It's as if Richard had decided to disappear from the face of the earth. On the kitchen table, exactly in the center, is a white envelope with his name written in my elegant handwriting, "For David Castillo, my beloved son." David sits in my chair, the same one where I ate breakfast every morning for the last 5 years, since his mother died. He opens the envelope with trembling hands and begins to read the letter I wrote with so much care. "Son, my entire life I worked so you could have a better future. I paid for your university by working double shifts for 5 years. I gave the down payment for your apartment by selling the shares I had saved for my old age. I helped with your wedding by selling your mother's wedding ring. I helped you get the car by co-signing the loan, and by giving you the down payment money through Edward. I did it all in secret because I wanted you to feel proud of your achievements, to believe in yourself, to walk through life with your head held high, thinking you had gotten everything with your own effort. When you pushed me that Sunday and told me I never did anything for you, I understood something terrible. I gave you everything in life, except the opportunity to learn gratitude. I gave you money, education, opportunities, but I never taught you to value the sacrifice of others. Now, finally, you can be truly proud. You no longer have that car that I never helped you buy. Now it is completely your own effort. I have donated all my money to the Silver Embrace Foundation, an organization that helps abandoned seniors, people like me, who their own children consider a burden. My apartment will also be for them when I leave this world. I am not doing this to punish you, son. I am freeing you to be the man you always said you were, someone who achieved everything completely on his own. Take care of Sarah. She is a good girl, and she is not to blame for the mistakes of adults. Tell her that her grandfather loved her until the last day of his life, even if I can no longer show her that love in person. With eternal love and my dignity intact. Your father, Richard." David finishes reading and sits there in my empty kitchen for 2 full hours, with the letter in his hands, crying like he hadn't cried since he was a child. 3 months later, I am here, sitting in the garden of the Silver Embrace home, and for the first time in many years, I feel a true peace in my soul. Do you know what the most beautiful thing about this place is? That we all understand the pain without needing to explain it. There's Mrs. Linda, who is 82. She was abandoned by her 3 children after selling her house to pay for the youngest's education. Mr. Aurelius, 76, worked 30 years for the oil company, and his children only show up when they need money. Mrs. Hope, my next-door neighbor, raised 4 children alone after her husband abandoned them, and now none of them have time to visit her. But here, we don't feel sorry for ourselves. We play dominoes under the jacaranda tree in the courtyard. We laugh about the antics of our grandchildren, the ones who do visit us, and we share the tamales I prepare on Sundays in the community kitchen. Patricia, the director, says my tamales are famous throughout the residence, "Mr. Richard, you should open a restaurant," she says while helping to hand out plates. I just smile and think that cooking for these people who appreciate me is better than any business. At the entrance to the garden, my silver Audi Q5 is parked, gleaming in the morning sun. The decal I had made says exactly what I wanted: "Donated with love by Richard." Every time I see it, I feel a deep satisfaction, different from any other I have experienced in my life. That car that David yelled was his, that he had bought with his money and his effort, now serves those who truly need it. Michael, our volunteer driver, is a 28-year-old guy studying medicine at the state university. He comes 3 times a week to take us to our medical appointments, to the market, to visit family. Yesterday he took Mrs. Linda to meet her newborn great-granddaughter in the next town over. Last week he took Mr. Aurelius downtown to see the holiday lights. "Mr. Richard," Michael tells me while cleaning the Audi seats, "this car has changed everyone's life here. Before, many couldn't go out because they had no way to get around. And there is the real justice. Do you understand? That automobile, which represented my son's pride and vanity, is now an instrument of dignity for people society has forgotten. Every time I see Michael helping one of my friends into the car, every time I hear their laughter during the drives, I think this is what was supposed to happen. This car is fulfilling its true purpose." On Wednesdays and Fridays, when David is at work, I receive the most beautiful visitor in the world. Sarah arrives, holding hands with Mrs. Connolly, my old neighbor who decided on her own to bring my granddaughter to me. The first time she appeared at the residence door, my heart almost stopped with joy. "Grandpa!" she yelled, running to me, and all the sadness of these months evaporated in that hug. Karen doesn't know about these visits. Mrs. Connolly explained that she tells Karen they are going to the park. And technically she's not lying, because we have a beautiful garden here where Sarah plays while we eat tamales and talk about her drawings. "Look, Grandpa, I drew you driving a really nice car," she told me last week, showing me a paper full of colors where a man with a mustache, supposedly me, is driving something that might be my Audi. I keep that drawing on my nightstand, along with all the others she has brought me. "Why does Daddy say I can't see you anymore, Grandpa?" she asked me last month, sitting on my lap while I peeled her mango. The question I had been dreading since the first day she came here. "Your daddy is learning something very important, my love," I answered, stroking her little head. "Sometimes adults have to learn hard lessons, like when you have to study math, even if you don't like it. Someday he will understand. And then you can come visit us again?" she asked, with those big, innocent eyes that break my soul. "I don't know, Princess. But what I do know is that Grandpa loves you very, very much, and that will never change, no matter where I am." I find out what's happening in David's life from Edward. My old friend comes every 2 weeks, always with excuses. That he was passing by, that he had a medical appointment nearby. But really, he comes to tell me how my son is, and to make sure I'm okay. Edward never tells me to go back. He never tries to convince me to forgive David. He understands this is something my son has to resolve on his own. "Things aren't easy for the kid, Richard," he told me last week, while we had coffee on the residence terrace. Karen hasn't forgiven him for lying about the money. She throws it in his face all day that he made them pretend to be rich, when they actually depended on the poor grandfather. He's not doing well at work either. He explained that Karen's video of him humiliating me went viral in the WhatsApp chats at the dealership. David's colleagues see him differently now, some with pity, others with contempt. His boss told him directly that a man who treats his father that way isn't trustworthy to deal with clients. David's sales have dropped, and with them, his commission salary. "And what does he say?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. "That he was wrong, that he wishes he could turn back time and change what happened that Sunday, that he didn't know you had done so much for him." Edward looked me in the eyes. "But he also told me something else, Richard. He said that now he understands why you did it in secret, that if he had known that everything he had came from your sacrifice, he never would have developed confidence in himself." Those words hit me hard, but I didn't change my position. Maybe so, my friend. But the problem isn't that he didn't know about my help. The problem is how he treated me when he thought I had given him nothing. He drives by the residence sometimes, Edward confessed in that same conversation. He parks across the street. He sees the Audi in the parking lot, reads the decal. Last time I saw him, he was just standing there crying, like a little boy. I've seen him too. From my window on the 2nd floor, I have a view of the main street. On Tuesday afternoons, when he gets off work early, David drives his borrowed car. Edward told me they are lending him an old beater from the dealership, and he parks exactly in front of our entrance. He stays there for half an hour, sometimes more, looking at the Audi, reading the decal over and over. The first time I saw him, my heart broke. I wanted to run down, hug him, tell him everything was forgiven. But then I remembered his words, "You smelly old man, don't touch my car. You never gave me anything." And I stayed at my window, watching my son cry in the street. It's not revenge I feel, understand me. It's something more complex. It's the need for David to truly, deeply understand what it means to value the people who love you. It's the hope that when we finally meet again, if we ever do meet again, he will be a different man, a man who has learned the value of gratitude. Yesterday, Michael took Mrs. Hope to see her great-grandson, who was turning one. When they returned, she couldn't stop talking about how beautiful the party was, about how her granddaughter had proudly introduced her to all the guests. "This car is a blessing, Mr. Richard," she told me as Michael helped her out. "Thanks to you, I was able to be at my great-grandson's birthday." I stood there, watching Michael put Mrs. Hope's wheelchair in the trunk of the Audi, and I thought, this is what was supposed to happen. This car is where it should be, serving those who truly need it, bringing joy to people who have been forgotten by their own families. Tonight, like every night since I arrived here, I sit in my chair by the window, and I reflect on everything that has happened. I don't regret my decisions. David needed to learn this lesson, even if it was painful for both of us. He needed to understand that love is not something to be taken for granted, that opportunities in life often come from the sacrifice of others, that gratitude is the basis of any true human relationship. I look out at the street, and I whisper the words that have become my mantra. Dignity. That is the only thing they can never take from you. Because at the end of the day, when everything is lost, money, the house, the respect of your children, the only thing left is how you decide to face adversity. And I decided to face it with my head held high, surrounded by people who value my company, in a place where my tamales are eagerly awaited every Sunday, and where my story is not seen as a tragedy, but as an example of strength. Life taught me that sometimes the greatest demonstration of love is to let go, to let the person learn for themselves the value of what they had. David had a whole life of my unconditional love, of my silent support, of my hidden sacrifices. Now he has the opportunity to truly understand what all that meant. If he understands, maybe one day we can rebuild our relationship on a more solid foundation. If he doesn't understand, at least I will know that I did everything possible to teach him. Meanwhile, I am here, at peace with myself, surrounded by people who appreciate the simplicity of a sincere conversation and the taste of tamales made with true love.